You're listening Radio Aristocrats, and it's Radio MBA with Gleb Bovyak and my guest, Hartej Sawhney.
Hartej Sawhney, principal of Zokayo.io and CMBDO of Crypto.com. Formerly CEO of Hosho, ranked #1 blockchain security company in 2019 by Forbes.
Hartej, you're on the air.
I'm on the air. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Dobre, dobre.
Dobre. Okay, Hartej, you're one of the most prominent people in crypto market and cybersecurity I know here, specifically in Ukraine. And a little introduction about you. So you made your name as a CEO, founder of the Hosho company. So Forbes made you #1 company in cybersecurity. Am I correct?
In 2019, blockchain security.
Specifically,
blockchain cybersecurity, smart contract auditing.
And here you're developing 2 other companies, which are those Japanese names.
Yeah, so one is Zokyo, which is attached to a fund called Bazoku, and I'm the CMBDO of Credo.com, QREDO.
Yeah, we'll make the hashtags for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I'll spell it out for them slowly.
Yeah, so we can somehow participate in the highly growing crypto market. Okay, Hartej, you're a citizen of the world, and I know you lived in multiple countries. You lived in India, you're American citizen.
Yeah, I actually have never lived in India.
You never lived in India?
No, my roots are from there, but I've never lived there.
You speak a lot about India.
Well, I really don't even speak about it much. I just look really Indian, so you assume that he would talk a lot about India. I was born and raised in America, and I've lived more time in Kyiv than I have ever in India. Okay. I'm more Ukrainian.
I can see that.
Я трохи розмовляю українською.
Okay. My first question is, how does life differ in Ukraine in comparison with other countries?
I would say the quality of life here is extremely high. Kyiv specifically, where I've lived, and I'm very familiar with the city of Kyiv. I'd say that is arguably one of the most underrated cities in the world. I've lived everywhere from Santiago, Chile to New York City. I was born and raised in central New Jersey. I've lived in Barcelona. You visited us there. Yeah. I've spent time all over the world, and I'd say the quality of life here is extremely high, and the infrastructure is solid. Where my roots are from, if you want to talk about India, I do take trips there to visit my family, and now that I'm operating my own businesses, I'm increasingly doing more things in India, and I do have a part of our security team for Zokyo based out of Bangalore. But I would say that, in India, India has electricity problems. There's times where I'm speaking to one of our security engineers in Bangalore, and the electricity just went out.
Really? In Bangalore? You have lockdown in Bangalore? There's
lockdown in Bangalore, lockdown all over. New Delhi has electricity problems. There's some fundamental infrastructure problems.
Guys are creating maybe 60% of the global code, and they have lockdowns.
They have lockdowns. Yeah, lockdown and COVID. The COVID situation, I think, is not going so great in India at the moment. But yeah, going back to Kyiv, quality of life, quality of food, people are nice, infrastructure is great. The time zone is a big deal. After COVID, I would say what matters more than location is time zone. And if you're on GMT +1, 2, or 3, it's a really great global time zone. And the cryptocurrency blockchain business is an extremely widespread global business. So it's in my business's best interest to be able to cater to everybody from Melbourne, Australia, to Los Angeles, California, Singapore, Korea, and all of Europe. And those time zones are actually relatively manageable from Kyiv. It's very central.
Okay. How does your timetable looks like in our time zone?
It's like 8 a.m. 7 to 8 a.m. is a wonderful time to kick off the day, and you're dealing with people in Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia for me. And by the afternoon, around 2 to 3 p.m. Kyiv time, New York City wakes up, and the East Coast calls and meetings kick in. And by the evening, West Coast finally joins the rest of the world. Hello, Silicon Valley. welcome to the rest of the world already being awake.
Okay.
And, I say that with a bit of a joke because it's really hard to connect with people on the West Coast. But when you actually live on the West Coast, you think the whole world revolves around you. And it's just so far from the reality. The rest of the world's human population has been awake. Once you go past the West Coast, you're on the next day. So now that I'm based out of Europe, I'm struggling sometimes to connect with people in Silicon Valley, SF, and Los Angeles.
They don't believe there is something else.
They're sleeping. There's really a time zone difference, right? New York City, at least, is more tolerable. And there's also a direct flight from Kyiv to New York City, and it's easy to get to as well in a non-COVID situation. Yeah. But I could go on for the rest of this episode as to how much and why I love Kyiv. And I guess what I could say about that topic is it does make me a little bit sad and disappointed when I meet people here who are locals, born and raised, who are shocked and surprised that I like it, or why I'm here. Like, why are you here? If you have an American passport, why are you here? Quite aggressively. And I'd say that the majority of those people have never lived outside of Ukraine. If you lived outside of Ukraine in several other, let's say, just cities, you would definitely be able to compare and contrast and say, wow, okay, well, the quality of life in Kyiv is very high.
But, Ukrainians are quite a closed community. We started traveling, sightseeing, watching other cities, watching other countries just recently. I think about 10 years.
Fair.
And I might be mistaken, but the statistics is something like 2/3 of Ukrainians, all Ukrainians, like in all the oblasts and regions, they've never left their oblast, their region.
Wow.
So a guy living somewhere in Kherson, 60% of Kherson Oblast citizens never left their region. I hope these things will change, but when we speak with other guests about strategy of economic development, tourism, domestic tourism is a huge thing because Ukrainians don't travel not only to Barcelona or Berlin. We don't even travel to other cities.
Within regions.
Yeah, within regions.
I see.
So I think you might have noticed. I know people look rather surprised seeing you here in Ukraine in general.
I'm walking around. I'm 6'1" with a turban and beard.
Yeah,
and I have an American accent, and I get all kinds of reactions and looks, and no one would probably looking at me assume I'm American, which I understand. But
how do Americans look, if we put it blankly? How can you?
In my opinion, I look American, right? But that's not the views.
You should be fat and in shirts, and in a baseball cap. that will make you an American.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly a stereotypical American, but I grew up in a really diverse area. I grew up in central New Jersey, where I never had any troubles. There was a lot of diversity. There was, for perspective, my high school had 2 different groups of Korean kids. There was the Koreans born in America and the Koreans from Korea. There was Indians from India. There was Indians born in America. It's extremely diverse, extremely international, and it was very welcoming. But where I grew up in America and how the majority of America is in places that are not as diverse, it's very different. And on the topic of traveling, majority of Americans also don't have a passport, and majority of Americans haven't left the nation either.
You lived in Las Vegas, I remember.
Prior to moving here, I did live in Las Vegas.
While in Vegas, I remember these stereotypical Americans, fat in shirts and baseball caps.
They exist.
Yeah, they exist. Specifically, they have a lot of things to do in Vegas.
Yeah? Yeah, you can sit on a chair and gamble.
Yeah, and I just remember one of them. I was passing by, and I remember a couple speaking why do you need to go to Europe? We have everything here. We have Venice here. We have Eiffel Tower here. Everything is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Vegas.
Yeah, that tends to be the American way, huh?
Yeah, but I actually love this, not about America, even about Ukraine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ukraine is a society that has multiple layers. And when people feel surprised seeing you with quite exotic appearance for our region.
At least they're not angry seeing me. In America, people see me get angry sometimes, They have sometimes this Sikh community. So my faith, my way of life is Sikhism, and my roots are from Punjab, India. And often around the world, we're confused because some people hold some sort of anger and animosity towards people who are Muslims because they assume that all Muslims are radical Muslims who may possibly have some hand in global terrorism. And so if you watch the media a lot, you might see people who might have the same skin tone as me. They might have a beard. They might have something tied in their head, whether it's a turban of a Sikh faith or of not, they don't know. And so around the world, often I'm looked at with anger. And I'll say that in Ukraine, I have yet to have somebody on the street approach me or yell at me with anger. And I've been here for 2 years, living here consistently. I've been visiting here for 4 years. And I have yet to face a situation. And even at night when people are intoxicated and I'm out and about with my friends, that's usually when in America, in New York City even, I might hear someone say something a little bit racist. Not once in Ukraine has that happened.
Well, and, as I said, you're very exotic. We don't know what to say, even intoxicated and drunk.
I don't even know if I like the word exotic. It's so weird. It's actually kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that word either.
Well,
I don't think it's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
In English? No, I mean in a way something that is not regular for the...
I get it for here, but you know.
Really, it sounds
weird. I don't know.
Offensive.
A little bit.
Okay. Now I know how to get you. I won't do that.
Luckily, we're friends. It's cool.
Yes. Appreciate that. Okay, but what I wanted to say is that within this multi-layered community, we have people like me who use the word exotic and don't feel bad about that yet. And a lot of those developers you work with who travel, who are also more citizens of the world. So I guess many of those guys, they did work in the valley. They lived somewhere in Berlin or something.
My favorite kind of Ukrainian engineer is one who went to America and chose to come back. That's my favorite kind of Ukrainian engineer. That means that we're on the same page about what Ukraine has to offer. Okay. They respect how
awesome. I know guys like that.
I know. And those are the best, actually.
Yeah.
Literally, the best engineers that you will find in Ukraine, that I've come across. I'm sure there's plenty of excellent engineers that have also not taken this trip. But there's something about that mindset of, if you're in tech, obviously the mecca of tech is Silicon Valley, which was built on the backbone of Stanford being a wonderful university and the UC institutions and the history of World War II and lots of venture capital all in one small area, lots of investors who invested in failure. And of course, anybody in tech dreams of spending some time in Silicon Valley, and I don't blame them. But once you've spent time there, if you decided to come back to Ukraine, I very much statistically will agree with your perspective about what life is about, what kind of quality of life you want to have. And on the other hand, it's important for a lot of Ukrainians to learn more about global business perspectives, marketing, business development. One of the things lacking here that I have found, and of everything I say with all due respect to the Ukrainian people, but still, I have found that there's a lack of skill set for hardcore sales and marketing and branding. These things are a little bit, it's just something that America is really good at. Right. And on the other hand...
Yeah, true. We don't know how to sell ourselves.
Yeah, right. And I was told, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in the Russian language, being a good salesman can basically be alluded to being a good scammer.
It's like a barriga, something like that.
Right, so there's something in the language that
It might have some negative connotation.
There's a negative connotation that if you're a good person at selling something, that you're a good scammer.
Yeah, because... Right? Yeah, it's true. Actually, it is true because in our, how you should put it, level of business sophistication, and level of business perception.
Yeah,
that's what I see. Well, I'm a teacher, and even our economic textbooks, they teach the advantage of the product.
Yeah,
meaning that a good product sells itself.
Yeah,
like. This perception changes, but generally it's like that. If you have a good product, you will sell it easily. You know better than anyone that it's not like that.
Yeah.
best products usually can easily lose. We have a lot of examples how the best products lose. It's like VHS over Betacom or
Yeah.
a lot of stuff like that.
Yep.
Because you need to know how to sell something.
How to market, how to sell, right? Like Steve Jobs was a genius marketer, a genius salesman. And many of the world's greatest engineers would argue
Elizabeth Holmes.
he was a fraud or something. They'd say Steve Jobs, he wasn't actually the guy coding it. It was Wozniak, you know? A lot of people want to give the credit to Woz, but it's important to recognize the marketing genius of Steve Jobs.
Yeah, true. But I mean, one can't live without the other.
No.
Yeah, they need to work.
Steve Jobs reinvented that with tech. He stayed really close to the tech. He understood the tech, but he really understood the power of thinking different. And that became their entire campaign.
True. Well, it's like my mom can use an iPhone. She couldn't use the HTC products of this 2005. If you remember the first smartphones,
No,
they
I
were
get
too
it.
complex.
Yeah, Android is still more complex than Apple iPhone.
Well, but still it's usable because, let's put it straight, Android, Google, they utilized all the Apple innovations in terms of marketing.
Yeah, they did. But even then, I would even though I personally prefer an Android device, but because I
Because
like
of the safety, right?
it's a mix of things. Safety is actually arguably the only safe mobile thing that I can think of relatively is actually
Nokia 3310?
the Google Pixel phone that you can put Graphene OS on, and so you can put your own secure OS onto it. Other than that, Apple is arguably really good with privacy is what they're claiming these days. And Android is just more feature friendly, and I like these bleeding edge features to try them. They're not ironed out like on Apple, but I buy my mom an iPhone because my mother, who's 62 years old, will always be able to use an Apple product.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. It's in a way, it's even like, I remember Jobs told me like we wanted to make tech sexy, and they did it with Apple.
Yeah.
So the thing you do with blockchain and cybersecurity, marketing it.
Yeah.
Do you know how to make the blockchain sexy?
Yeah,
Because it's still complicated for me.
Blockchain is already sexy. I made cybersecurity within blockchain sexy. That's like the hardest task in the history of tasks. And yeah, I did make it sexy. I mean, look at the logo of my last company. Tell me that's not sexy. Hosho? Come on. Like, people thought my name was Hosho. That's how good my logo was. That logo was on backpacks. People were wearing it everywhere. People were like, what's his name? Hosho. They would give up on my name. Hosho.
Hosho.
And I mean, it went well. And now my company, I like Japanese 2-syllable names where I can get a .com or a .io. So Hosho, Zokyo, Bazoku.
Yeah. What does Hosho mean in Japanese?
Hosho means security in Japanese. Zokyo means augment in Japanese. Bazoku means tribe in Japanese.
Yeah, like all those words, they don't make much sense. Like, you know...
You don't speak Japanese, do you?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like all those girls trying to look nice and they make tattoos.
What is Snapchat and what is Twitter? What is Twitter to you? Does that mean anything to you?
Twitter?
Right? Like there's all these random words out there. As long as there's less syllables, then it works. Let it rip.
You've seen a lot of girls with the Japanese hieroglyphs tattoos on their shoulders, on their backs.
Which tattoos?
The Japanese, these hieroglyphs, or how we call them.
Okay.
Yeah, those kanjis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, how you call them in English?
I don't know. But what is your point?
Yeah, but I mean, just imagine people making a tattoo with the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, like... But
that's how sexy my logos are. I'm telling you, you can get them tattooed.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All my company logos are tattooable. I'm not joking you.
No, that's true.
That is how I build my stuff.
That's like a very good advice. That's a good advice for our listeners. You want to make a logo, just a picture of a tattoo of the logo.
I'll tell you one more advice for logos for your listeners. Mm-hmm. My rule for logos is you should be able to take a pen and paper or a marker for a whiteboard, and you should be able to draw the logo out very simply. And if you think of any of the top 10 brands in the world that you are a customer of, Apple, Nike, right? Look how simple Nike is. I can just take a pen and paper and I can just make one swoosh and I'm talking about Nike. too many people are complicating logos, and they're like putting multiple colors and shapes, stuff that can't be recreated with a pen and paper.
Because you want to make it, you want to put everything in this logo. Like our logo should explain how smart we are, how technological we are.
I think your logo should be building a community and should be easy to follow, right? So since we're in Kiev, one of my favorite restaurants in this city, which I have no direct affiliation to other than the fact that I enjoy their food and experience, Lubimy Dядя, my favorite uncle.
Great place.
Great place, right? And Lubimy Dядя has an epic logo. It's a upside down triangle with a line below it. I have no idea what this means, but it's imprinted in my brain. It's very tribal. It's very tattooable. And it's awesome. Like, that's a great logo. If anyone is in Kiev listening to this and you want to know what I think is a great logo, go eat at Lubimy Dядя and look at the menu. It's epic. And that logo is, as soon as you walk in the restaurant, I can memorize it right now. The logo is just that symbol. No words. Just that symbol is on the host's stand. Just that symbol is found on the napkins without the name Lubimy Dядя. It's so elegant the way they've done that to just make you associate that symbol to Lubimy Dядя.
Well, it's so elegant that I've been going to Lubimy Dядя for 5 years or 6, and I don't remember the logo.
It's because you have no design aesthetic, Gleb.
Yes, let's admit it.
I'm kidding.
Okay, no, you're right.
Well, I mean, if you haven't noticed, then perhaps not. I've sat there just staring at the logo going, this was smart. That was a smart move. You know?
Yeah, this is how you learn to sell. Perhaps I'm a very bad seller.
Perhaps.
So,
well, we can test that. We can test this theory out.
Okay, but that's the idea.
You know what? I'll tell you one thing about sales approach that doesn't work here. Technical or non-technical, Ukrainians don't like to get on the phone and start with chit-chat.
Of course, I hate.
They don't say, how are you? During coronavirus, you got to get on the call with someone around the world and start with like a, hello, how's everything going over there? What time is it? Where are you? Are you healthy? Like, you got to ask some basic questions and start with that. I find Ukrainians like to just go right to it. Hello, so let's do it.
Okay, line 3, error in a code.
Yeah, and we're just like,
how are you gonna fix it?
Like, nice to speak to you again. It's so rude and abrupt. American culture, it's okay. Sure, there's a little bit too much chit chat in the beginning. They want to talk about maybe the sports match last night and maybe some political discussion. But it's important to.
Well, now you sound soft.
You got to create some trust.
Okay.
You got a little bit of hi, how are you? How's everything going? But and the intonations in American English, our intonations can tell a lot. Like if I say,
you just bullet me with the word exotic. So a lot of things matter.
Yeah. So if I say, yeah, versus yes, right? There's a big difference. And I find that intonations here, for those who speak English, the intonations are very.
We don't learn that at schools, Hartej. It's always yes. Yeah.
But still, you need to, you don't learn a lot at school that you need in life. The lesson there is screw school, start adapting, watch YouTube videos with the subtitles on at 2x speed. And if you need to learn English, watch things in English. I want to learn Russian, and I'm watching things in Russian.
Or Ukrainian.
I'm also watching some things in Ukrainian. I'm learning both. Let's be honest, in Kiev, people speak a lot of Russian and Ukrainian. I'm trying to learn both.
What products do you enjoy watching? Or you're just doing it for the sake of learning?
It's more for the sake of learning, but I'm watching random Netflix serials that are in Russian or Ukrainian, and then I'm watching old movies that are on whatever's free on the internet in Ukrainian, that like random movies that my wife says is good. I don't even remember the names. I just sit, and whenever I'm having a meal, I turn it on, and I'm taking Ukrainian lessons, actually.
Well, that's
2 days a week.
Here.
2 days a week.
Yeah, I know. I can't swear in your presence anymore.
You can't.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, but again, as you're a mediator in a way, yeah, can I call you a mediator of the Ukrainian developers to the global market?
Yeah, that's true. I am.
Yeah.
I behave as the face for some of the brightest engineers in the world.
How do you find the engineers?
Reliable, trustworthy.
I mean, how do you look for them? Sorry. How do you look for the engineers? So you need this labor. And they're, well, even in Ukraine, it's not that huge mass of the great engineers. They're rare everywhere in the world.
Ukraine has one of the highest adoptions of retail cryptocurrency users. Ukraine has a very robust community of engineers who have been involved in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space since the beginning. Since Bitcoin came out, there have been people involved with the cryptocurrency blockchain community in Ukraine. Ukraine arguably has one of the largest blockchain engineering communities in the world. And engineers, how do we find them? We've already been working with, we found teams of engineers who were already working in teams of 3 to 5 that were already building in the blockchain space. And the thing about crypto is you have ups and downs. It's been quite volatile. In our space, we call it, bull market, bear market, crypto winter, crypto summer, they call it, right? So we've had multiple winters, and we're cooling off from a pretty big bull run right now. But I will say that after the previous bull run, 2018, when the next winter came, there basically became a large number of available talent in Ukraine because a bunch of engineers were pretty much available because we were entering like a colder market. But a lot of engineers were jaded by the crypto space because there was quite a bit of scams and there was some not so moral activity going on. So during the last crypto winter, a lot of engineers that I came across were a little bit jaded to want to continue to develop within the blockchain ecosystem. But the quality of work that we're getting from mostly the United States or from the UK or from Switzerland, some from Hong Kong and Singapore, some from Australia, it's all really sophisticated work that we're getting. And these engineers are really excited to deal with the clientele base that's international. They prefer to work with clientele that is international. Our ability to fulfill the needs of international clients with Ukrainian engineers, it's very doable, and they're 100% so far for us. Our track record has been, they've been extremely satisfied with the quality of code that's being written by these engineers. Today, 2020, October, hiring a blockchain engineer in Ukraine is extremely difficult. There is basically no market for blockchain engineers. For perspective, we interviewed around 19 candidates. Only one of them went to the next round for a senior blockchain engineer.
What's the reason is that the qualification or the integrity?
The reason is that the market is booming again, and all the good engineers already have their own projects, or they're already working for someone. They've been scooped up. So many of the top projects in this space have been built by teams here. And on top of that, Israel is on the same time zone as Ukraine. And every single one of the top 20 to 30 Israeli startups has a team in Ukraine. If it's not Kyiv, it's Kharkiv or it's Odessa or Vinnytsia. They have a team in Ukraine. So if you're building in the crypto space, there's an extremely high demand for a blockchain security engineer or a blockchain engineer, and it is not easy to find them. No, it is not easy. And how I've done that? Well, it's a little bit of a mix of a secret sauce and luck and already having a network. I already knew so many engineers. And I would say the only secret sauce I will give away on the show is I have engineers who already work with us who are well respected by other engineers. And so more junior level talent is happy to work for some of our senior engineers, both men and women. We have some female engineers in Ukraine who are awesome. And the key is to want to work with these engineers and receive mentorship, right? Like as a junior engineer, you really want to learn. And that's one of the best. You're willing to get paid even less if you're going to learn.
So offer growth to the engineers. This is how you attract them.
We have quite a bit of a Silicon Valley style culture. We're actually nice to our employees. We pay them more than the Ukrainian market rate. We let them take days off without counting those days. We give them quite a bit of freedom. If they want payment in cryptocurrency, we give them payment in cryptocurrency. That is a preferred way of payment of the majority of our staff, actually. And in Ukraine, it's quite easy to convert crypto into Grivna or USD. There's a Telegram app called any.cash. again, no affiliation, but I really use any.cash and I love it. So everyone should use it.
Does that pay off treating gently the juniors?
Yeah, absolutely. What did you say the regular wage is here in Ukraine?
I know, regular wage in Ukraine, not among the engineers, not about the IT industry.
But still.
Yeah, but
right?
still people earn about 400 USD per month.
Yeah.
And that's like a normal wage.
Junior engineers in Ukraine are earning between 30 to 80 an hour USD.
30 to 80?
Yeah.
I pay our engineers $40 and I think it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. See, that's your perspective.
Yeah, that's my perspective.
Yeah.
I treat them nicely.
Yeah. We're okay paying more than that. We're okay paying up to 70, 80. Why not? Most of our contracts still leave enough margin. Ukrainian engineers cost more than Indian engineers. My roots are from India, yet I'm living here and I'm hiring more engineers here than India. Why? And it's a simple fact. Ukrainian engineers for us are much more reliable. And if I hire 10 of them, the ones who are actually qualified to be a senior level blockchain engineer, they're far more qualified with far more experience. They're they're reliable, far more reliable. And I will say the third part is actually, when you're building a culture in Ukraine, there's not as many religious or cultural differences between the people who I'm hiring. So building a company culture here is easier than arguably than India. In India, you have such high amounts of diversity in terms of religion, culture, income class. One guy's fasting, one guy's not eating onions today. Next guy has to pray 5 times a day. Fifth guy says, oh, well, today my wife is fasting, so I have to go home for a prayer.
Really? That's an issue?
Yeah, I mean, the camaraderie isn't automatic. I can hire 10 guys, 10 girls in Ukraine, a diverse team of male and female, and they tend to get along. It's really not an issue. But they create
the mixed teams like Ukrainians with the I don't know, Germans, Polish, Chinese.
Yeah, our team is mixed. Mm-hmm. Our team is mixed, but it's mostly the Ukrainians working with Ukrainians. At least on the engineering side, it's siloed teams of 2 to 3 engineers, 1 project manager, 1 QA person, and they're an augmented team dedicated to one company, maybe in Silicon Valley, right? And so you've got 3 non-technical people who have an idea, a business to build, and we dedicate a team of 5 to be their dedicated tech team. So it's like an outstaffing model, augmenting model.
I remember you said that one of the secret sauces, I don't want to bring any mysteries about your business.
Oh, that's cool.
I hope that's not a secret, but...
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, but you're targeting teams more than individuals.
Yeah, we are. We're targeting teams more than individuals, trying to acquire full teams more than individuals, maybe just partner with more teams than individuals. We can also find lots of individuals, and we can partner with code academies, which we do. We partner with...
Do they work?
Yes, very much.
Really?
Code academies plus... The thing is, a lot of Ukrainian engineers do a poor job of representing themselves in terms of their CVs. So they have an ugly CV that doesn't even have updated... They haven't updated their own skill sets that they can actually offer.
Hobbies. Yeah, we only update hobbies in our CVs. That's like the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I recently had quite a bit of an issue where the client wanted to see the CVs of the engineers that we have. And the client was quite turned off. They're just like, what is this? Right? But it's... So we've been trying to improve our own situation by improving their CVs and updating them and helping them represent themselves better.
Like the way of investing into your human capital.
We are. And also our culture in the company is if you decide you want to go work for someone else, we'll help you. We'll write your recommendation letter. We're not going to be insulted. I'm trying to take a page out of the book of companies like LinkedIn, right? Like LinkedIn encourages their entrepreneurs to... The people who work at LinkedIn, they're encouraged to start their own companies. The founders of LinkedIn have their own VC fund. They will invest into someone if they want to make their own company.
I don't remember the name of the guy.
Graycroft.
Yeah, he's like a very bright person, a very forward-thinking person.
Right, and so...
that's the idea. I think the issue
with American... You gotta enjoy your life.
Yeah, but I mean, that's That's how people view the future. For example, I don't know your opinion about Bill Gates, for example, but he's definitely a forward-thinking person.
100%.
Yeah, he's like a global thinker. The founder of LinkedIn is also a global
Reid
thinker.
Hoffman.
Yeah, Reid Hoffman. Well, he's not that successful as, for example, top 10 billionaires in the world. Like,
Sure,
yeah,
fine.
but about his vision, the articles he writes, the idea he puts.
Amazing. He's quite a thought leader, key opinion leader on company building, on building a culture.
Yeah, building a culture and this idea of like network organizations. They're
Correct.
not hierarchical, the strict structure organization, but about this network organization, well, that's...
And also incentivizing LinkedIn employees to, for example, they would host hackathons and encourage people to find problems or to build on within the LinkedIn network. And, you know, if you find a bug or you want to build something that LinkedIn decides to adopt, you know, you're getting a raise, you're moving up the ladder, you're maybe going to be dedicated to your own department now to build something within the LinkedIn ecosystem. You're encouraged to innovate, to think outside the box, not to take a task and complete it, collect your salary and to move on. I've tried multiple times in the past to hire LinkedIn engineers to come work for us in Silicon Valley, and it's been impossible. Each and every time I tried to hire someone from LinkedIn, they'd say, look, I love what you're building. I could probably convince my wife to come join you, but I'm not going to do it for at least 11 months. Like, what, 11 months? Why? Because I promised my team at LinkedIn, I'm going to see this project through, and it's not about the money. I'm going to see this through. And it's like, wow, I can't wait 11 months.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing about hiring engineers in other countries like America, for example, as an American, there's not as much loyalty because there's lots of other job opportunities for junior and senior level engineers from companies who have the bankrolls of Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, right? So those behemoths are out there with a big bankroll. And because of their bankroll, the access for someone small like me, I've only got access to maybe junior level talent with the kind of money that we have, unless we go raise big VC money. Whereas in a country like Ukraine, I'm able to hire senior level talent who's, in my opinion, arguably better, if not equivalent, to the most senior engineers at LinkedIn at a fraction of the cost with far more reliability. I'm not sure everybody can move to Ukraine like I did and marry a Ukrainian woman, but hey, the option's out there. I can give you the advice.
That's still a stereotype, by the way. American coming to Ukraine, marrying Ukrainian girl.
How's that a stereotype? How many Americans do you know that actually moved here, that married a Ukrainian woman? That's bullshit.
Okay, but we're talking about stereotypes. They're usually
It's not a
bullshit.
stereotype.
It is.
I know American guys who visit here and go to the nightclubs and visit Odessa in the summer when there's a good party with black coffee. They didn't move here. Israelis come here all the time. Every week you go to Lubimi Diadia, you're going to meet a bunch of Israelis guys saying, Ma kovek, ma shalom, shalom, shalom. They're speaking Hebrew.
Okay,
they're visiting. They didn't move here.
I personally know
They even have Ukrainian girlfriends. They didn't move here.
I personally know 5 Americans who married Ukrainian wives.
And they moved here?
50-50.
That's a very low percentage. 50% is a failure in school.
Well, yes, but it's still reasonable. In statistics, 0.5
Statistically, if you took 10 Americans that married Ukrainian wives, 9 of them moved to America. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, I love this kind of statistics. Like 90% of statistics goes out of the hat.
This statistic was pulled out of my butt. I completely made it up.
I know that. Okay. By the way, speaking about Ukrainian clientele, have you tried working with Ukrainian companies?
I'll be honest. I don't want to. And my Ukrainian engineers don't want to either. Right.
That's the way they do business, the culture of the organizations, or the complexity of performing orders for Ukrainian clientele.
They're thinking in hryvnias. They're earning in hryvnia. They're locals. Mm-hmm. And they tend to want to compare us to other development shops and other ways they can solve their problems here. And I don't have time to play that game. If you respect us, you will accept the price that I charge and we can move forward. We don't have time to negotiate and we don't have time to be talked down to. And more or less, whenever we've dealt with any Eastern European client, they like to kind of talk down to the outsourcing dev team.
Because I pay.
Because I pay, so you deliver.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't have time for this. I demand respect. We have a huge portfolio of success. If you want to have a call with 25 of our companies in our portfolio, I will introduce you to the CEOs of 25 companies in our portfolio. But I won't tolerate disrespect, and I won't tolerate being haggled on my price. If my price is more expensive than you'd like, I will introduce you to 3 other dev shops. Go for it. I'll Google it for you. Ukraine dev shop. Go for it. You called me. Pay my price. You know, I'll not discriminate if a Ukrainian customer comes my way, but I avoid it.
What does that mean? You're not discriminating in a way? Okay.
I avoid it. It's all. I avoid it. Discriminating in the sense, yeah, okay, fine. I am discriminating. It's a hypocritical statement.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, fine. That's fair. But my defense is 100% of my Ukrainian engineers will agree.
Okay. No, in Ukraine, by now, in Ukraine, you're allowed to discriminate. That's like a good news.
I'm a permanent resident of this country.
Yeah, so I am allowed to discriminate.
I'm allowed to discriminate. I live in Kiev center.
Okay. Okay, Hartej, well, that's a very fruitful discussion with you. Like all the time, we keep on arguing, and I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. On the topic of crypto, I want to talk about a few more small things real quick, though. Ukraine has the highest amount of retail crypto users in the world. Top 3. It's like Ukraine, Russia, Venezuela have extremely large amount. Well, yeah, I mean, well, sure. But it's a large amount of retail users, right? The largest amount of cryptocurrency transactions are still coming out. They're North America and China in terms of dollar volume. But numbers-wise, Eastern European markets, Ukraine specifically, high amounts of adoption. And a lot of it is even individuals and small businesses paying for their imports from Turkey specifically in USDT, USD Tether. And I think that's awesome. And I think that the world's biggest cryptocurrency businesses are already starting to plant seeds and hire people in Ukraine. So the biggest exchange in the market today in crypto is Binance. Binance has already hired people to focus on the CIS countries, and they have employees in Kiev. And slowly, more and more of the cryptocurrency exchanges are realizing that Ukraine has Telegram groups with 10,000, 20,000 people in one Telegram channel, all who care about crypto. And these numbers are not small to have 10,000 people in one country all actively talking on a Telegram channel. The curveball is that a lot of these channels are kept active by people conducting cryptocurrency scams. So the sophisticated capital in Ukraine, often when they hear the word crypto, they think scam. This is going to start changing, and it's starting to change because crypto is definitely not all scam.
You actually started answering the question I wanted to put you in advance.
So ask it.
So it is, what are the prospects of the business of crypto
in Ukraine?
Crypto economy? Let's call it crypto economy in Ukraine. And I don't think it's just Ukraine, because I think that's one of those specific markets that are global. You can't go strictly Ukrainian doing crypto. Anyway, you're becoming global in this case.
Yeah, if you're playing crypto, you're playing a global game, right?
Yes.
But I mean, there's a company in Ukraine, I believe they're Ukrainian, called Wirex. It's a Visa debit card that you can load stable coins and cryptocurrency on top of, and then swipe your Visa card to pay for your meal at Lubimy Dyadya.
They do an automatic conversion?
Automatic conversion, right? And that's pretty cool. So, and they're based out of Ukraine. Ukraine is also home to Bitfury, one of the world's biggest miners. They have 160 engineers.
Yeah, this one we know, of course. Right? That's a huge company.
Yeah, and then you have like Distributed Labs out in Odessa, who's been publishing some of the best written material about Bitcoin in Ukrainian and Russian.
This is present. This is the world we live right now.
Yeah, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah,
I think the Ukrainian government has been so thumbs up to crypto.
Yeah, I know that.
And that's amazing.
I've read the bills. People are trying to make emission through crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of talk about increasing the fiat on-ramps. Right. That's a big thing. We need more people to be able to convert their hryvnia into crypto. compared to anywhere else in many other countries in the world, it's pretty easy in Ukraine to convert, especially in Kiev. You want to convert hryvnia to crypto and crypto to hryvnia. It's very easy. Again, on any.cash on Telegram.
Well, but it's the market is quite shady concerning crypto, specifically in Kiev. I don't speak about global, but different money they run through crypto.
Correct.
Yeah. So the idea is that the market is not regulated. Luckily, hopefully it won't get regulated.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah. But it allowed some dirty money to run into the crypto coins.
Correct.
Yeah. And is there any way to avoid that? I don't think so. Because as long as you try to increase the security of something, you lose the liberty of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be KYC, AML limitations on amounts past a certain amount, but I prefer it in a free market.
Yeah, that's something we are on the same page with you. I guess everyone. So our guest today, Hartej Sawhney, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Gleb.
Thank you. Well, you've been listening to Radio Aristocrats, Radio MBA, and see you next time.